Some people don't raise their voice when they are hurt. They don't argue. They don't demand explanations. They don't try to prove their pain. They simply go silent. To the outside world, this silence is often misinterpreted. It is seen as emotional distance, lack of interest, or even weakness. But psychology reveals something far more complex and far more human. Silence, in many cases, is not the absence of emotion, it is the result of feeling too much for too long, without safety. People who remain silent when they are hurt are often deeply emotional individuals. They are observers. They process experiences internally rather than externally. When pain occurs, their instinct is not to react impulsively, but to pause, reflect, and protect themselves. This behavior is not random, it is learned. Silence becomes a coping mechanism developed over time, shaped by past experiences where speaking up did not lead to understanding or healing. Psychology explains that silence often forms in environments where emotional expression was unsafe. Many silent people learned early that sharing their feelings resulted in dismissal, ridicule, interruption, or emotional neglect. Over time, the brain adapts. It recognizes that speaking costs energy and vulnerability, while silence offers control. As a result, silence becomes a form of emotional self-preservation. For these individuals, silence feels safer than words. Words can be questioned, misunderstood, or weaponized. Silence, however, cannot be argued with. It creates distance from conflict and reduces emotional exposure. This is why emotionally intelligent people often choose silence during moments of deep pain. They are not avoiding the issue, they are avoiding unnecessary damage. There is a misconception that people who stay silent do not care. Psychology strongly contradicts this belief. In reality, silent people usually care deeply. They feel intensely. They simply do not externalize their emotions in dramatic ways. Their emotional world is internal, layered, and complex. Instead of expressing pain outwardly, they turn inward, processing emotions through thought rather than reaction. Silent individuals often possess heightened emotional awareness. They notice subtle changes in behavior, tone, and energy. They read between the lines. This sensitivity means they absorb more emotional information than most people, which can become overwhelming. Silence, then, becomes a way to regulate emotional overload. It allows the nervous system to calm itself without escalating conflict. Psychologists refer to this as high emotional processing. People with this trait require time and space to understand what they feel. They are less likely to react impulsively and more likely to withdraw temporarily. Their silence is not emptiness, it is full of thought, evaluation, and internal dialogue. As emotional pain repeats without resolution, something begins to change. The silent person starts to speak less, not because they have nothing to say, but because they have learned that explanations do not always lead to understanding. When words repeatedly fail to create change or connection, the mind adapts again. It conserves energy by reducing emotional output. Silence becomes not just protection, but a boundary. This moment is critical. It marks the transition from temporary silence to emotional withdrawal. The person is no longer trying to be understood, they are trying to stay intact. Psychology identifies this stage as emotional fatigue. The individual is tired of explaining feelings that are ignored, and tired of defending emotions that are invalidated. At this point, silence is no longer passive, it is intentional. It is a quiet decision to stop engaging in emotional battles that lead nowhere. To outsiders, this can look like indifference, but internally, it is the result of deep disappointment and emotional exhaustion. Silence, then, is not a lack of strength, it is evidence of restraint. It takes emotional strength to feel deeply and still choose calm, to resist the urge to react, to prioritize peace over being right. Psychologically, this demonstrates high emotional regulation and self-awareness. People who stay silent when hurt often understand that not every emotion needs an audience. Not every wound requires explanation. Some feelings are too personal, too complex, or too fragile to be placed in the hands of those who may not handle them with care. Over time, continued silence can evolve into something deeper. What begins as emotional protection may slowly become emotional distance, This transformation does not happen suddenly. It unfolds quietly, often unnoticed by others. Silent people rarely announce their withdrawal. They simply begin to invest less emotionally, little by little. Psychology explains that this gradual disengagement is a response to repeated emotional disappointment. Each time a person feels unheard, misunderstood, or invalidated, a small emotional withdrawal occurs. Individually, these moments seem insignificant. Collectively, they reshape the emotional connection. Silent people often give many chances before disengaging. They observe patterns. They notice when behavior does not change despite conversations. They recognize when effort is one-sided. Eventually, the mind reaches a conclusion. Continuing to invest emotionally is unsafe or unproductive. At that point, silence deepens. This stage is known as emotional detachment. It is not cruelty, it is survival. Emotional detachment allows the individual to function without constant emotional strain. It reduces vulnerability and prevents further disappointment. Importantly, it is not driven by anger, but by clarity. One of the most misunderstood aspects of silent people is how they leave. When they finally walk away, there is often no confrontation, no dramatic explanation, no final argument, just absence. This absence can be shocking to those who never recognized the silent person's internal struggle. Psychology notes that when a silent person stops caring, the shift is subtle but profound. They stop reacting, stop hoping, stop emotionally investing. This is not something that needs to be said. It is felt. The emotional energy that once existed is simply gone. Silence at this stage communicates finality. It signals that boundaries have been crossed too many times, that emotional safety no longer exists, that peace has become more important than connection. For those who understand psychology, this silence speaks louder than words ever could. There is a painful truth associated with silent people. Once emotional detachment is complete, reconnection is rare. Not because the person lacks forgiveness, but because reopening emotional access feels unsafe. The nervous system remembers the cost of vulnerability. This does not mean silent people are incapable of deep connection. On the contrary, when they feel safe, they connect profoundly. But safety is essential. Without it, silence remains. Psychology also highlights an important balance. While silence protects, isolation can harm. Silent people must be careful not to suppress emotions entirely. Healing requires safe connection, not permanent withdrawal. The challenge lies in discerning who deserves access to one's inner world. If this narrative feels personal, it likely reflects your own emotional experience. Perhaps you learned to endure quietly, to process pain alone, to remain composed while feeling deeply. Psychology recognizes this as emotional intelligence, but it also acknowledges the cost. Being silent does not mean being invisible. It does not mean your pain is invalid. It means you adapted in the best way you knew how, and adaptation is a form of strength. If you see yourself in these words, know that you are not alone. Many people carry their emotional weight quietly. They move through the world unnoticed yet deeply affected. And sometimes the most powerful form of being seen begins not with explanation, but with recognition. If this resonates with you, you don't need to explain your story. You don't need to justify your silence. But if you feel comfortable, you can leave a simple word in the comments, silent, or I understand. Sometimes connection begins quietly.